Welcome to the Good News Bay podcast, where we are making Bay County brighter, one conversation at a time. My name's Steve Taylor, and we can't wait to get this episode started. Welcome to a brand new season of Good News Bay. We are thrilled to be able to offer this podcast. Some of you are watching, others of you are listening. Today, we're kicking off this season with Ross Clemons. Now, some of you may know Ross Clemons. That is a name that's been around in our community for quite a while. Others of you don't know him. And so I want to try to give him a proper introduction today. And he is a Bay High grad from 1982. Not to age the man, but I have learned through the years, Ross, that Bay High grads, they're connected. I'm a Mosley guy, but we just haven't stayed quite as connected through the years. So
go Tornadoes.
There you go. You are an Army man.
I am.
You went to the military academy at West Point.
I did.
And you completed the War College. And then ended up, after somewhere in the middle of all that process, you ended up actually getting a master's degree in history from the University of Florida.
I did.
So you have studied a lot. You've studied war. You've studied history. You have served in the United States Army. And I thought it would be good for our listeners. I told you I was going to do this because I think it matters. Those that don't know, like, it's pertinent to really what we're going to be talking about today at the rescue mission and your leadership there. But here's a little bit of your history with the Army. Over the course of 25 years in the Army, Ross has commanded units in the infantry and special forces. He later served as a defense attaché on several tours of duty at U.S. embassies in Africa. He concluded his service with tours of duty at the Pentagon and at the U.S. Africa Command, where he attained the rank of colonel. And then I think it would be important for us to share as well. You go to finances, all right? So he currently is the president and owner of Clemons and Pierce, a retirement plans group located at Harrison Avenue in downtown Panama City. All of that matters in the intro because we are talking to you today about being the executive director of the rescue mission. And listen, the rescue mission is a place that I grew up serving there some. Like I have preached some sermons there, and I fed some folks there. But then it's gone through some different cycles.
Sure.
And part of what, even in a presentation that you've sought to be about in the last year and a half, that you've been the executive director, is a new pathway forward.
Sure.
And in complete candor, you have had to win me over to an extent. I don't know if it's fair to say that, but like we're going to host the banquet this year that y'all are doing in June as a way of trying to help you guys in accomplishing your mission, hopefully find some financial partners for what you guys do. But the reality is y'all are getting back to the basics in large part.
We are. First of all, a big shout out. Thank you for hosting the dinner for us. That means a lot to me.
We're thrilled to help.
So that's wonderful. And yes, we are trying to get our feet back under us. The mission was badly set back by the hurricane, like much of our community was. But for us, that meant a funding shortfall where we had to close the doors for both sides for a while, but for the men's side for 5 years.
Okay.
So, support's going to go away. When you're not open, when you're not serving folks, it's not fair to ask them to continue supporting.
Well, all of that makes it difficult. A lot of folks have heard, regardless of where they're from. We got folks that listen to the podcast that are new to our area, wanting to know how they can serve and how they can make the community better. We've got folks that are used to that name from a while back. So what services are you guys currently able to provide through the rescue mission?
So in a world of constrained resources, we're going to choose to make our priority right now a life transformation program. We do some other things, but our number one goal is to help folks, mostly homeless, that want to escape those desperate circumstances, typically due to an addiction or to a mental health challenge or maybe just some short-term economic challenges. We want to help people that want to plot and work on a way out of those circumstances and a way out of substance abuse. Mm-hmm. That's our number one goal.
So to be like blatantly clear, I am a pastor, obviously, but not all of our podcasts are like, we don't talk about Jesus all the time.
Sure.
But I want to make it, y'all are unashamedly faith-based in your curriculum.
Absolutely. And we've had to change how we go forward with doing this. Some of our partnerships that were used before can't support us in this phase, but we have made a decision to collaborate with our church community, with other folks who share a vision of a Christ-based life transformation program. So our addiction recovery programs, we use the Living Free material The Teen Challenge developed that, and that is a faith-based addiction recovery material.
Yep.
We have a pastor on staff. That's new. We haven't done that in the past. When we reopened this time with this new vision, an integral part of that vision was having a pastor on staff.
Is that Pastor Tim Crisco?
That is Pastor Tim Crisco. Yes.
He has done a lot with local pastors to try to connect pastors in our community as well prior to this role. So I think it's important for our listeners to know that.
Yes, and he recruits and trains chaplains, equips other folks to invest in people that want to grow in their faith. So he was the perfect guy for the mission.
So I'm pushing hard a little bit, kind of in the front end on the faith side of it.
Sure.
One of the things I left out of your bio is that you have one of the reasons that we connected before all of this is out of a love for discipling people, to help people move forward in their relationship to Jesus Christ. And so, my background's as a pastor. Your background, you and I think Mindy both are part of staff with Navigators Discipleship Ministries.
We're associate staff of the Navigators Ministries, and that's because it was the Navigators that shared the gospel with me. So when I first joined the Army, I was going to church, but I absolutely could not tell you that the Lord was number one in my life. Somehow or another, I had let work and professionalism become number one in my life. And after I'd been in the Army for about 5 years, some folks from the Navigators shared the gospel with me, led me to the Lord in a meaningful way,
Yep.
and then continued to disciple me for the next 5 or 6 years. So Mindy and I have always wanted to give back in that regard. And we had wonderful mentors, disciples early on that equipped us to do that. And honestly, that's my greatest joy is getting to help other folks grow the way those guys helped me.
One of the key precepts and principles you guys have been following moving forward, and again, it's taken. I've wanted to see it. I wanted to see it for myself, so to speak, which is why we've kind of waited a little bit to want to support like we are. But you guys are reaching back out to churches, and you want church support and encouragement. And for those of us that come from a ministry background or church-going folk, really that believe in the difference that Christ can make, it helps to know that the leader of the organization practices this, believes this, and is also on the business side not a shrinking violet. I don't know if I'm supposed to use that phrase or not, but the fact of the matter is you can have hard conversations. You've demonstrated throughout your career that you can do that. Y'all have reset the table in terms of staffing and perspective of where you're headed. You've been at it a bit now. We talked a little bit about the need. I may be a little bit off script, but we've talked a little bit about the need. You guys are not currently running at full capacity.
No, we're not.
Talk about the services you're currently able to provide and what you could provide.
Okay. Well, when we reopened, after we made the repairs that we could after the hurricane, we were still short on money. But we just we stepped out on faith in August of 2023. And the community stepped up. We didn't have the money, but volunteers stepped in to close the gap on treating our clients, and volunteers stepped up with food donations. So yeah, we were able to open. And then as we opened, money started to come in. So we've hired staff now. So today, we have 30 women and children in the women's facility, and we have 2 full-time and 1 part-time staff over there, case managers encouraging those folks along, mentoring them, discipling them, and helping them overcome whatever their life-dominating sin or challenges, typically a substance abuse. On the men's side, that opened later. We had, in a world of short money, we only have 1 case manager over there. And how many folks we can take in is a function of how many case managers we've got. So I can take in 30 on the women's side, but I can't take in more than 10 on the men's side because of our shortages.
You want like a 1-to-10 ratio, isn't that what you
We
shared?
do, yes, we do. We could sling open the doors. Honestly, we have, between the 2 facilities, we have 85 beds. I could sling open the doors and we could bring in 85 folks. But the people who've been doing these ministries for a while all say you need to stick to a ratio of 1-to-10, and they suggest that if we slung open the doors and let those folks come in, the people who have won this hard-fought battle to sobriety would be put at risk.
Right.
If they get filled with folks who aren't committed to being clean yet, it would endanger the sobriety of the folks that we have in right now.
And I love the concepts that I'm hearing, because the idea is we want to make sure that what we do well. We don't want to, the desire to help more than we really can help, bring in folks that causes the quality of the program to go down. And so y'all have been metered with that, like you've
Yes.
tried to go as far as you can, but not farther than what you can handle at the moment.
Yes, and that's probably I want to say the most painful part of the job, but having to tell people no, that we can't take you in. And I, of course, when I say that, I know that we've got the beds, so that's hard to explain to folks.
Yeah.
But
To be clear, the need is greater than, and there's empty beds, but the need is greater than what's currently being funded at the moment. So, like I'm literally telling our listening audience that there's a way that we can help, because the potential is there, but the funding's not.
That's correct.
And you've been like, we're not making any bones about the fact that you guys are rebranding. You're making a pathway forward. One of the things that you and I talked about in the pre-interview was about your heart to see this place eventually become a place that pastors can send parishioners that are finding Christ, but now being discipled, trying to figure out what their spiritual gifts are, wanting to serve. Talk about that a little bit, if you would.
Well, absolutely. I mean, my vision is I believe that, as Christ followers down there, that we're representing the Christ followers of all the churches of the town. So we see ourselves as a place where the church at large, Church of Panama City, the various congregations, send folks that feel called to help this population in these desperate circumstances. If the typical person in a church, if they feel called to help a homeless person, it's really not safe for them to walk out to a homeless encampment and just tackle that on their own.
Sure.
So I believe I would like to offer to churches a safe place where somebody who might think that they feel called for that to kind of check it out.
Do y'all do nightly teaching, Bible teaching, or something like that?
We do. So we're gonna have programs 4 nights of the week on the men's side, 3 nights of the week on the female side, and those are volunteers. Those are people from churches like yours that have people that want to grow in their teaching and pastoring capacity or ministering capacity, and they come down and they pour into our people.
There used to be a lot of that, and when I say used to be, I remember being 17 years old. I graduated high school at 17, called to the ministry, looking for opportunities to share the gospel, and going with some of the folks that were men that were older than me in the faith, down to the rescue, and preaching. I don't think they were good sermons, but I preached my heart out, and I found a calling. And you're saying that you literally are wanting to have a place where people can come and serve.
Absolutely.
I have a list of here, and I don't know that I'm going to get all of them right, of ways that people can come and serve. It's mostly volunteers.
Yeah.
It's answering phones, it's answering doors, handling mail, perhaps cleaning, yard work is possible, Bible study teachers, peer accountability and mentors.
Absolutely.
Helping serve meals, handing out food, because you do a food pantry.
We do. We're going to hand out food every weekday from 2 to 4.
Okay.
For Tuesdays through Friday, 2 to 4. And we're going to serve between 30 and 70 homeless every day. That is a wonderful opportunity for somebody that wants to show the love of Christ to, some people that are suffering, would be to come and join us then. And we need the volunteers. It's a lot. The food has to be unloaded, sorted, packaged, and into bags that are useful for the homeless to take with them. And then we want to be face to face with the homeless. And we want to have enough folks so that if somebody wants to be prayed over, that we got the manpower to do that.
Yep.
If I'm down to just my one staff, they're so busy passing out food that no one's probably going to get prayed over.
So I've been trying to wrap my mind around the kind of folks that you help to get a feel for what that looks like so that we could communicate that to people. And I ask you questions about, what percentage is the military population. It's not a super large percentage by far.
No,
maybe 10%?
Yeah, I think
maybe?
it's 10-ish, yeah.
So many of them, there is a homeless population. There's an addict population that's a part of that.
Yes.
You said that there's also a group that it's mental issues for some.
Yes.
And then I guess homelessness was one of the others.
Well, and economic. People that are
Economic, that was the third
homelessness
one.
just because of economic challenges. Because, we all know this, the cost of living in Panama City is particularly high.
Yes, sir.
So that the gap in Bay County between the average housing value and the average income, that gap is higher in Bay County than most of the rest of the state.
Yep.
So that pushes some folks into.
So let me flip toward the good news part of this. What you're saying is absolutely true. Historically, as a hospitality-oriented community, we have people that are coming here and enjoying the amenities, but the people that serve the people that come here and enjoy those amenities, they don't make near as much. We're in the process, I believe, is bringing in really businesses and providing, because of some of the folks that are moving in, aeronautical and some others, they are providing, military's piece of this, but they're providing higher paying jobs, but that's not fixed. The cost of living here is expensive. The cost of housing is expensive.
Right.
And that leaves a group of people oftentimes that are struggling to find housing.
Absolutely.
Did I say that okay?
Yeah, you nailed it. Yeah, that's it.
And one of the reasons we think this matters is we don't want homeless people on the streets. We'd like to help them get from where they're at to where really we think God wants them to be, not on the street.
Right.
There's always going to be a population that you want to help, but maybe you can't help. And you guys have been focusing, like literally, you've been focusing your resources on those that you think you can help.
Yeah, there are some, not a lot, but there are some that are choosing that as a lifestyle. They're choosing to drop out. We want to be there for the folks that want out.
Yep.
We want to be there for the person who's using and doesn't want to use anymore. We want to be their lifeline.
So among the services provided, so like we've talked about the vision to some extent, like pre-interview in particular, there's all these services that could be provided in a rescue mission, hypothetically.
Right.
We're not at a position to be able to offer all of those. So we are offering a program, a 12-step program for those that would qualify for that, that we think it would help. And then there also are emergency services, which would be really more food for homeless and those kind of things that you're providing.
I mean, so you think of it as a pastor. So you get it, what we're doing with the Life Transformation Program, the Christ-centered Life Transformation Program. But the flip side of that is if I'm going to have a focus on life change, not everybody's ready for that. So for the folks who aren't ready for that, I don't want to slam the door in their face. I want to have emergency services. I want to be able to encourage them to keep coming back, and I'll at least feed them.
Building a relationship.
Yeah, building a relationship. Feed them.
Trust.
Get them some, blanket if it's winter, a jacket if it's winter, and just no screening, no preconditions. We're going to help the folks who aren't ready to commit to the program yet to the extent of what we've got at our disposal. So that we refer to that as emergency services. Sometimes we can connect them with a local office in town that might be able to do something for them. But we're going to try to do something for everybody, for those folks that aren't ready to commit to life change.
If we have folks that are pastors or those that are involved with a faith organization of some sort, and they would like to talk to somebody at the organization or you, I mean, we'll put links and whatnot in the show notes, but they can reach out to you or to one of your staff.
Absolutely.
And they would be more than happy to come and answer questions about how they can participate.
Yes, we have a main phone number line that we can put out that.
Because part of this, we're talking so that we can say to the community, it's a new day, we need your help. And we're wanting to make a difference in Bay County with these individuals that have potential. Now, you told me a story.
Okay.
Every anecdotal piece of information is like that doesn't mean they're always that way. But you told me a story in the pre-interview about someone that was on the street that we're not mentioning names or anything like that, but they were on the street and you got them some resources to help them, and within a matter of 2 to 3 weeks. They were like the needs that they had were such that we went from being on the street to now gainfully employed in a short period of time.
And that's obviously rare.
That's not the norm. That's not the norm.
Typically, it's going to be 6 months to 12 months, particularly if they have a substance abuse program.
Right.
But some folks have some trauma in their past. And I had no idea about this, by the way, when I came in. I had my own stereotypes of what the homeless were like, and I was completely wrong. There's some folks out there that have just had some bad trauma, some shocking trauma that would astound our listeners today. And in this one particular instance, we're going to get everybody to see a counselor, a pastor, in some cases a trained counselor, and do an assessment. In this case, they identified this guy shared the trauma, and he was queued up with some people that talked to him and did their counseling. They actually helped this guy navigate this trauma in his past, where it was no longer manifesting in a way that was making him unemployed. He was acting out in ways that was costing him jobs.
Helped him to be functional in life.
Yep, and it was shocking. Once somebody helped him through that, he became stable, got a job, held the job, and then moved out.
I love the idea of helping people help themselves.
Yeah.
You know, that's beautiful.
It is beautiful.
I think it doesn't have to be the norm if we know that there can be an exception periodically. Like we don't want streets full of homeless folks, but we don't, as Christ followers, we don't want to just run them off. We want to help them, right? And this is an organization that's trying to do that.
We're trying. We really are. The cool thing that for me, and of course that's a different story we don't need to get into, but I got in sort of unexpected due to some circumstances, and I stepped in. The cool thing to me is seeing the folks that work at the mission. It is the most heartwarming thing. They all just feel called to help. Most of them have lived through those circumstances themselves.
Right.
And they want to be there to help others get out. That's the most fun thing about the job, is just seeing the passion of our staff that want to be there to give a hand up to others. That's the fun part.
I think it's great. I want to, and this is unattached to you, okay? I know this is a podcast with you, but I think that one of the things that I think is a good news story related to addicts or the number of addicts in our country, you have statistical data that shows that drug addicts in the United States, it's a battle we're losing, and within the state, it's a battle that we're losing.
Right.
I can tell you from having been in the neediest, like having my eyes on the neediest population in Bay County, particularly with children over recent years, like addiction is a huge part of why we have so much of a need with foster care and those kind of things.
Yeah.
Some really good news, because I try to check up on things, right? And so I reached out to the sheriff earlier today, and I asked him specifically about the prospects relative to drug addiction moving forward. And number one, the last number of years, we've had a real problem of drugs coming in from our southern border. Like that's a direct connection that our community and our state has felt, and it's been felt everywhere. Our worst year for overdoses in Bay County, and I think it's great news, but the worst year was 2021. They have, at the Bay County Sheriff's Office, they've put a specific focus on that, and we've seen a 60% reduction. That's not reflective of the national trend, right? And so that is good news for our community. And the hope would be you're dealing with folks that are already addicts. They're already strung out. They're already in this position. And so as a community, if we're helping on the one hand becoming a safer community, becoming a better community on the law enforcement side, better able in some ways to fix the problem that's still coming, and then on the other side, we're helping the folks that are already there, man, that's win-win.
It is. Well, and we need to give some more credit to
Please.
to the sheriff and the sheriff's department, because they're doing addiction recovery out in the jail, and that makes a huge difference.
There is a 12-step program there.
There is a 12-step program.
Faith-based program.
It is. That's right. And oftentimes, some of those folks will come to us as their transition.
Now, I may be putting you on the spot here by asking this. Rick McClung, in Most Excellent Way, what they do down at First Baptist Church, that they're friends of mine. I love what they do.
Oh, yeah.
They have people that accept Christ every year.
Yep.
And many of them who maintain that recovery and sobriety and become functional parts of what we do. Was there anybody else that you were that you were thinking of in particular? There may be a couple of faith-based programs down there.
Oh, no. Well, there are. Rick McClung was the first guy I went and talked to when I realized I was going to have to step in and help. He's got a world of experience, and he's got a great program going. And incidentally, we make sure we keep our calendar clear on Wednesday night, so that any folks in the mission can go to.
They can participate.
They can participate in First Baptist,
That's
and many of them do.
It's a good word.
Rachel Duvall with the Humble House, she does a great job. Kathy Bird at Titus II has always done a great job.
We didn't talk about this, but you spend it out there. That's good.
Well, I mean,
we're in it together.
There's a lot of collaboration. The guys in Chrome and Mariana, they've got a bigger program, and oftentimes when we're tight on space, sometimes we'll send folks up to Chrome.
So, for whatever my 2 cents are worth, and I want my listeners to hear this, y'all have a big fundraiser that's coming up in June. It's a banquet, and you're looking for some businesses maybe some individuals that would be willing to financially support and help you guys accomplish the mission. My 2 cents are that I think you guys have turned a corner. I think you're on a track that is faith-based, that's Christ-centered, and you're legitimately, in an accountable way, trying to take the step forward and provide more help. You got beds that could be filled, a program that could be a part of that solution, but you need the funding to do it. So if people are looking and they're interested, they can find the show notes, find contact info. They can reach out to you. You pulled out a business card there. We're going to make sure that, that the info goes up. You are a fit guy, and I've always known you're a fit guy. I'm personalizing you right here.
Where are we going?
Where are we going? Nobody knows where we're going. I'm always off cue. No, seriously, like you're a structured person in most of life. That's what I think is true.
Okay.
And I love the fact that you're spiritually disciplined. You also have a physical discipline that you go through. You run some, right?
I run some.
Yeah. You wouldn't be the military guy that I think you are. That tough guy. Like I almost envision you doing push-ups every morning, right? Do you do push-ups every morning? Can I ask?
No.
You do not. Okay. Well, you clearly are running some because you're just a little bit older than me and you're more fit than I am. And so I'm picking at you some, but I think it humanizes you for people to know that you're trying to do your part every day to stay physically fit, spiritually fit, and lead the group of people to be more like Christ that you're leading. Ross, thank you for being a part of our community. You could have retired and moved anywhere, but you came back to Bay County.
I know a good place when I see it.
Yes, sir.
So I'm happy to be here.
Well, thank you for helping us make this a brighter place, and I appreciate your time today.
Well, I'm happy for a community and churches like yours that support us, that help us do this.
Absolutely. Let's do it. Thank you so much for listening to this episode. Help us encourage others by sharing this content. You can also like it, and certainly we would love it if you subscribe to the content so you can be one of the first to get the new episode when it drops.